Call to order the Rice Creek Board of Managers regular meeting. We are meeting in the Mounds View City Hall Council chambers. Today is Wednesday, August 13, 2025, and it's 9 a.m. Roll call indicates that all of the managers except Steve Wagaman with prior notice are present. Open mic. Any Rice Creek Watershed District resident may address the board in his or her individual capacity for up to 3 minutes on any matter not on the agenda. Speakers are required to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record. Additional comments may be solicited and accepted in writing. Generally, the Board of Managers will not take action at this meeting, but rather refer to staff for future report or direction that matter be scheduled for an upcoming agenda. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an issue not on our existing agenda? Stowe, welcome back.
How are you guys today?
Okay.
I want to play a little video for you I was able to do last time underneath this, I think, if you can zoom in on it. Christopher Stowe, 426 Pine Street. A couple things I want to bring to your attention is I have a notice of public hearing tonight for the city of Lino Lakes where the sod farms are, which is the direct branch at 102232 goes through, and also branch 4 that negatively affects me goes through. They're going to be developing all that property. The meeting is at 6:30 tonight at the city council chambers. I think you guys should show up to this because this 102232 should be addressed and fixed before they bring in millions of cubic feet of dirt in there. And right now when it floods, the water has a place to go. But as soon as they put a bunch of houses in there, it's going to flood me out even more, and it'd be a lot cheaper to fix it right now than after they put streets and roads and all that. But you guys were out at, let's see, where do I put this? Let's see, hold on a second here, let me get this going. So on last week, you scooped out branch 4 behind my house, I think, so this is what we got. Let me try to find where we're at here. I'll restart this for you guys.
Jumping like that, right. They left the banner on here.
All right, let's see.
Rice Creek, and they dredged out branch 4 north of Andal Street. This is Andal Street. So this is the first major culvert that they didn't lower. And then we got the one over on 4th Avenue that they didn't lower. But they lowered 7 culverts north of my property. So we dredged out this. We scooped it all out. We got all kinds of water in here. Right? We did this today. We spent all this money. And guess what? The water ain't flowing because the goddamn pipe's too high. Like it has been since the 80s, and this is the reason I'm flooded out at my property. But thank God we lowered the pipes north of here to keep water in this ditch and keep me flooded out all year long now. Thanks.
So that's pretty much my comments. We got 3 options. Lower the couple pipes south of me and scoop it out. You got 15 feet of elevation between me and the prison. Or I can keep coming to these meetings. Or I can take you to court. Right now I already have 2 lawsuits going on other stuff in my life. I'm tired of giving lawyers money. I'll get paid on those, and then I'm coming. You guys completely flooded me out on this. The other thing I wanted to point out, our Houston Engineering, our engineering firm that's always here, and it's interesting, our lawyer's always here. I go to the city council meetings all the time. Their lawyer's never there. 1 out of 20 maybe. I'm also running for city council too because I'm tired of what's going on. But on this page right here that affects me, this is Pine Street right here where it crosses, where you lowered the pipe twice. It's interesting to denote that there's no elevations on there because you lowered the pipes after you did the survey and you lowered them twice. Then you basically say that branch 4 ends here, but you went all the way, Columbus went all the way down the road, and we're draining all the way to the John Deere dealership now to dry out Wagamans. Now that didn't work, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do West Pine Street and lower that culvert. There's already a waterfall going through there, but once it hits the sod farms, it's got nowhere to go. Can you guys lower the pipes and help me out? The other thing is on the corner, my pond on the corner, that's a private man-made pond, supposed to drain under the old Barnhand house. That doesn't affect you guys, that's Lino Lakes, but then it goes into my back marsh and there's an equalization pipe that hasn't been fixed or addressed. I know John Waller's been out there, I know Wagaman's been out there, I know Tom's seen it. It's completely full of junk and the water's not draining. So then it backed up onto my property. And when you guys came out, Terrence Chaston Davis came out, he said, oh, you're filling the wetlands. What's interesting though is where I had those horses on that wetlands, it's all class 5 underneath it because it's flooded out so bad. I got a street lamp out there. Do we normally put street lamps out in the middle of a marsh? That was where my parking lot was for the bike track. That's when the city allowed my property to park 121 cars out there. And I have a weir pond in front of it that I even had to show the mosquito control guy it. Because he didn't even know my main big pond, there's a smaller pond there because the runoff from the parking lot's supposed to go into that. But it's so flooded out, you can't even tell there's what used to be a parking lot there. The other thing is in my video, when we get up to the pipe, your guys that scooped it out, they did scoop it out, but if I take a elevation marker and I walk it, the ditch gets shallower as I go to the pipe. Because why scoop it out if it has nowhere to go? Because the pipe's too high. So you lowered all the stuff north of me, my pipes are too high, and you've done nothing to help me.
Thank you, Mr. Snow, your time is up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm frustrated.
I heard that.
Vote for Stowe for city council.
I have a motion with regard to the approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I would move the approval. Oh, you gotta set the agenda.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Any changes to the agenda?
Might want to clear President Bradley if there's anyone else that wants to speak. Open mic. Sorry about that. Yep.
No, we have one other person here. Two people. Either, so the object go and make is to talk about things that are not on the agenda. So if you have an item, you came here to tell us that it's not on the agenda, this is your opportunity. Okay.
All right.
It is back on now setting the agenda. Any changes?
Staff have no proposed changes.
Anyone have proposed changes? Can I have a motion to set the agenda as is?
Mr. President, move to set the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Now, minutes.
Now, would you like that motion,
I would
Mr. Chair?
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. I would move to approve the minutes from the July 23, 2025 regular meeting and the August 4, 2025 workshop. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. All right. Patrick, consent agenda.
Good morning, President Bradley, board managers. Staff have 4 applications for your consideration today. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd just like to make a brief note for application 2554. That's the Northern Natural Gas Odorizer Project. The property owners to the east, Leon and Robin Cushlan, have reached out to staff to raise some concerns and questions that they had with the project. They're intending to, build on their property in the future, and they were just interested about our review process and what's going to happen with stormwater and the wetland that is between the 2 properties. So just wanted to note that we did reach out to them. I've spoken with them and sent them an email about our process, what we look at, how this meets our stormwater and wetland design, and what our process looks like for inspection and such. So just wanted to note that.
Mr. President.
Mr. Waller.
Patrick, would you repeat the individuals' names?
Yeah, Robin and Leon Cushlan.
You spell it, please?
Kushlan.
Did they have, and whereabouts were they? Do you know?
It's the property directly east of 2554.
Yeah, okay.
Look up an address.
I assume that this is up at that natural gas interchange station that's just west of 15 up there. And
Yeah.
north of,
On 180th?
Yeah, 180th Street.
Correct.
Okay.
Any further questions, Patrick? Not going to have a motion to accept or conditionally approve the 4 projects. Well, I will do that. I moved to conditionally approve the pending receipt of changes of the permit applications noted in the table 25-051, 25-054, 25-064, 25-068, as contained in the engineer's findings and recommendations, and dated August 4 and August 5, 2025. Can I have a second?
Mr. Chair, I will second your motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, really
Yes.
quickly, just for the group, I did mention to Patrick, there was a typo in here on page 33 in reference to what I think is 5362. It's printed as 2362, so unless we're just making new digits, I'm going to go ahead and assume that's a typo, and I did share that with Patrick, and that will be corrected behind the scenes.
So we finally found a replacement for the fly specker on the board, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, well, at least you know I read these things.
Well, that's probably the primary reason to do these things, is to show that actually we do care what Patrick says to us. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you, Patrick. And Molly, welcome to the board.
Good morning, Mr. President, Board of Managers. For your consideration today, there are 4 water quality grant applications. I would like to make note, Manager Wynant and I discussed prior to this meeting that the final column on your consent agenda was inputted incorrectly, and the total project costs were indicated as the cost share portion. Fortunately, all of the projects are 50% cost share this month, so just assume that it's 50% of those numbers listed. Mr. President, I do have the correct language in each memo for each application for your motion. If you have any questions about the projects, I invite you to ask them now.
Marcy, good eyes on you.
Thank you.
Any questions of Molly? Hearing none?
Well, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the the consent agenda is out.
It is a
Sorry.
portion of the consent agenda, yes.
Well, I would move to approve water quality grant application A25-01, A25-02, R25-07, and R25-08 as outlined on the consent agenda and with recommendations of the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Any second?
Mr. Chair, I will second.
Very good.
Motion.
Any discussion? Come on, chance to ask Molly questions.
Well,
The CAC did a fine job of that last week, Mr. President.
All in
Yes.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
President Bradley, next on the agenda is your public hearing. So you'll like to recess the regular meeting and open that.
So can I have a motion to recess the meeting?
so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we are now been transported instantly to a separate hearing. And I'd like to welcome everyone to this hearing. Under consideration is a repair of branches 5 and 6 of Anoka County Ditch 5362. As part of the board's consideration of the repair of the drainage system, the board will also establish the allocation of project costs between water management district charges and ad valorem taxes, and the nature and basis of water management district charges. Purpose of this hearing is to receive comments from the public on the district's proposed plans to repair ditches 5 and 6 of Anoka County Ditch 5362. Please note that these proceedings are being recorded, and the order of business will be as follows. Mr. Schmidt, Tom Schmidt, who's our drainage inspector and facilities manager, will introduce a presentation of the information related to the district and its management of public drainage systems, engineers' review of this portion of the public drainage system and the proposed repairs, and a review of the proposed method of allocating repair costs, including water management district charges. Mr. Schmidt will be assisted by the district's legal counsel, Mr. Koch, and district engineer, Mr. Ades. After initial presentation, I will open the hearing for public comment. Board would like to hear your comments on the proposed repair and related matters. The board consideration of the repair of branches 5 and 6 of ACD 5362 is based on the requirements of Minnesota statute, chapter 103E, and the board's obligations as drainage authority to maintain the public drainage system. The hearing relates to the condition of the drainage system, its need for repair and utility of the proposed repair. Our decision must be based on the merits and utility of the project after considering the repair report and evidence presented to determine whether the work is necessary for the best interest of the affected properties and whether the work will be conducive to public health and promote the general welfare of the watershed. During the public hearing, managers may ask questions of staff or consultants, making presentations of commenters in order to clarify any testimony. In addition, if a member of the public asks a question and a manager believes the response from the district staff or district consultant can readily resolve the question or enrich the testimony, the manager may ask to have the approved staff member or consultant speak to the question. Board discussion will occur after all members of the public have had a chance to speak and public comment period has been closed. Board decisions may occur and be concluded at this or subsequent meeting as the board decides. If a member of the public would like to make a comment, please stand, address the board when I recognize you, speak clearly, state your name and address. If you have a specific question concerning the proposed reestablishment or correction of the public drainage system record, we may ask our administrator, engineer, or legal counsel to respond for us. If you have anything in writing you wish to submit, you can provide it to me at the close of this hearing, and I will note its receipt into the record. To ensure that all wishing to comment on this proposal, we have the authority to limit time. At this point, we don't have a lot of people here to worry too much about time. So, let me proceed. So, do any of the board members wish to offer any further remarks before we begin?
No.
Okay. Mr. Schmidt, would you please introduce and make your presentation?
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers. Adam Neese from Houston Engineering is here to present a report or a presentation on the report for the repair. Adam?
Welcome, Adam.
Anybody online?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. President, Board of Managers. I will share my screen here momentarily, and we will walk through.
Adam, 1 second.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'll note there's 4 people online.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Adam.
Go ahead.
Okay, it looks like we're up. So again, thank you for the opportunity to come present about Anoka County Ditch 5362, branches 5 and 6 repair. Today we're going to talk about our standard for decision of how we manage and repair the system. We're going to look at the drainage system conditions currently. We'll look at the proposed plans to repair the drainage system, the total cost for those repairs, and how we're going to allocate those costs, and a anticipated schedule should the board move forward today. Visually on the map, we've got the red box highlighting approximately the location of ACD 5362 branches 5 and 6. That is where the repair is located. If we zoom into that location a bit, we've got a map showing a few blue lines here. So we've got branch 5 lateral 1, branch 5 lateral 2, and branch 5 primary, as well as branch 6 and branch 6 lateral 1. I'll be showing a similar map as this one throughout the duration of this presentation, so we can all be familiar with it. When we look at the standard for decision, Minnesota State Statute, Section 103E.715, we look at, are the repairs necessary? So we're endeavoring to answer that question. And then, are the repairs as recommended in the best interest of the lands affected by the drainage system that is using the drainage system as an outlet for drainage? So we'll be kind of walking through those questions and balancing drainage function with cost, and is it in the best interest of those lands. Looking at maintenance versus repair. First off, why maintain the public drainage system at all? We do note that it does fulfill the Drainage Authority's responsibility as required by Minnesota law, and it provides predictable drainage and stormwater management. That's important and relevant for this ditch. We'll be hearing that term, predictable drainage, throughout the presentation here today. That's for the district, the cities, the landowners, both now and into the future. It relates to public health, welfare, and protection of valuable infrastructure. So when we look at separating maintenance and repair, they're not necessarily different in terms and statute, but in practice we separate them as kind of small and large. So on a small scale, we do maintenance routinely to keep ditches functioning and keep them flowing as best we can. But in cases where the full system is in need of maintenance, it's a much larger scale, maybe a more robust form of repairs needed. We move to a full repair on the entire system and look for funding for that. That term, predictable drainage and stormwater management, we do like to categorize that a little bit. So when we look at normal drainage for agricultural purposes, we typically are looking at those 2-year events, those more frequent events. That might be 2 to 3 inches in a day. Looking a little bit bigger on a stormwater scale, more typical is a 10-year event. That might be 4 inches, 4.5 inches in the day. And then we look at floodplain, kind of that FEMA level 100-year event is maybe more in that 6 or 7 inches in a day. So we like to break those terms down and set folks' expectations reasonably. A repair will not have a substantial effect on that FEMA level 100-year floodplain. We're not going to notice any difference from doing this repair. However, the repairs will enable those stakeholders to better predict flood elevations for those lower events, more frequent events, kind of those 2, 5, and 10-year events that we more commonly see. Looking to the current conditions of branches 5 and 6, we were out there on a survey about a year and a half ago, and I've got a handful of pictures to show you. These will be similar to what we shared at the public informational meeting. So this is a picture of the ditch, and you really cannot see a ditch on either of these 2 images. There's excessive sedimentation, lots of vegetation. It's just hard to see. Maybe you see a slight difference in the vegetation type there, but clearly there's not a ditch flowing with water very well. We've got culverts that are partially plugged or fully plugged. There's debris and sediment that's clogging those pipes. We do have some trees, although it's not nearly as many as some of our other systems, but there are trees along the system. Sometimes they're falling in. They're producing blockages for the ditches, or at the very least an obstruction for maintenance activities. We can't get in there with our equipment to maintain these ditches, so they need to be cleared out. A few more pictures of heavy vegetation. Again, that's decreased efficiency, limiting the capacity, and the performance becomes unpredictable when this condition exists. So overall, we look at our conclusions on the system performance. So to summarize it in a handful of bullet points, the majority of branch 5 lateral 2 and branch 6 south of Village Meadows is in what we call severe disrepair. We believe that that condition will continue to deteriorate. It is worth noting that system is no longer used for agricultural drainage purposes, which would be more of that low flow 2-year events. But now it's used primarily as an urban land use, more of that stormwater outlet for those 10-year events roughly. It's also worth noting the system was never designed to turn wetland into upland, and that's still not what we're looking to accomplish. The primary need in this case, in the current condition, is to restore that predictability of the conveyance of the ditch. So the grade of the ditch might be less important for that purpose than simply having a cleaned out ditch. So continuing on, looking at some of the items that we investigated as part of the repair process, the repair report process, we did look into wetlands and public waters as well as threatened and endangered species. We had early coordination meetings with the DNR that ended up requiring an independent survey of threatened and endangered plant species. We did have a field delineation of wetlands completed about a year ago. There are 2 public water wetlands along Branch 5 Lateral 2. Those are shown on the map. Again, those rare plants were detected along Branch 5 Lateral 2 and Branch 6. So if you can see those small green dots, those are the locations of those rare plants. I think I can close that one. Okay. Good. Okay, so wetlands were delineated along the entire system, and they are categorized as semi or permanently flooded wetlands as how they're categorized. So we look at several alternatives when we investigate the repair. We include the do-nothing alternative. We include the ASIC alternative, the as-constructed or subsequently improved condition, bringing that ditch profile all the way back to that originally constructed or legally improved. And then we also look at something in between. If there are reasons to not fully repair the ditch to the ASIC cost or what have you, we look at a partial repair. So we're calling that our selective repair. So I'll walk through some pros and cons of each one of those. The do-nothing alternative, understood that some would call this not an actual alternative, but we need to consider it. Our considerations are the system will continue to degrade. This really is only a viable option if the system is determined to no longer provide a useful purpose. And we do not believe that is the case, except for one of the laterals of Branch 5, lateral 1 of Branch 5. We'll get into that a little bit later. We look at function of the do-nothing alternative. Our open channel will continue to fill in. We can expect higher water levels during wet periods. We have increased risk of flood damage, and we do not have predictability of conveyance. On an environmental note, the do-nothing alternative matches the current condition, so no real impacts there. The full ASIC repair, which is a full repair to that as constructed or subsequently improved condition, would include excavation of the entire channel to the full ASIC depth. And that includes culverts being lowered all the way down to that ASIC profile. This does lower water levels in public waters. And wetlands and rare plant species are impacted with this alternative. And that would result in substantial mitigation cost, which we have not quantified how much that would be. Looking at function of the ASIC alternative, the system capacity would be restored to its originally established condition. Peak flood levels on average across the ditch for roughly that 10-year event would reduce by about 0.3 feet, a little more than 0.3 feet. Wetlands along the ditch, which are primarily in public waters, will change their category from semi-permanently flooded to occasionally flooded. And environmentally, that results in the potential wetland impacts of 0.945 acres, which requires a 2-to-1 replacement ratio, so there would be a mitigation of 1.89 acres. A DNR public waters work permit would likely be required to accomplish this alternative, and that may result in a takings of state-listed threatened species. And again, the mitigation cost of that is unknown. So, looking at the selective repair, we've essentially saying that the full ASIC repair may be too costly or not worth the cost to endeavor to construct. So pulling back from the full ASIC repair is a selective repair, trying to target getting good function for the landowners on the system without undue cost to the landowners. So a selective repair is channel excavation to something less than the full ASIC depth in critical areas. Some portions would still get the full ASIC repair depth. We would not do any lowering of culverts. The culverts would stay in place unless they were, crushed in place. They would need to be replaced, but at the same invert in size that is there today. Those culverts were in place at the time of the DNR establishing their public water inventory and is establishing the runout elevation. So that's why those culverts are relevant. That would result in no significant impacts to public waters and no significant impacts to wetlands or rare plant species. I alluded to branch 5 lateral 1 maybe no longer serving a functional purpose, and we would leave that one as it currently sits today and not repair it, as we believe it's not useful for the landowners. When you look at function of the selective repair, the capacity of the system will be predictable, and it will be consistent with or better than the condition at the time of land development when those culverts were put in place. Overall, we look at the same peak flood levels. We do still get a decent reduction on the average 10-year event across the system, about a 0.29 feet of reduction. Existing wetland areas will continue to have a similar level of hydrology, so that helps us avoid those impacts. So environmentally, no impacts to wetlands requiring mitigation under WACA. No impacts to public waters, and the takings of rare plant species can be avoided with construction timing. And no significant adverse environmental impacts. We do asterisk this with upon concurrence of the TEP and LGU as well as the DNR. So our drilling down a little bit further into what that selective repair means as our recommended path forward on this system. The map shows large segments of the ditch in yellow that are being repaired or excavated to that full as constructed or subsequently improved depth. So there's large stretches of the ditch that do get that full repair, and then the segments in green get a partial clean out or leave as is, depending on how the case is. We do avoid impacts to public water runout elevations, so you'll see those green dots. Those are the culvert locations. We would not be lowering those, even in locations where the ditch is being repaired to its ASIC depth to restore that conveyance and capacity. So moving forward with our recommended repair is that selective repair to restore predictable drainage. The components of that project do include channel excavation. It would include some tree removals where there's deadfall or obstructions along, or access obstructions along the ditch. We would be stabilizing ditch slopes through seeding and, if needed, erosion control blanket on the spoil pile that's taken out of the ditch. We look at a cost comparison of the two alternatives, the alternative 2 ASIC condition and the alternative 3 selective repair shown side by side. We compare the construction costs, the engineering costs, the presumed legal and administrative costs, and we throw on a 20% contingency. You'll note that the engineering and legal is a higher cost for alternative 2. That is accounting for the presumed additional permitting requirements that would be needed and additional engineering that would be required, additional design, those culverts and that sort of thing. So there's a little difference there. The total, the bottom line, alternative 2, the ASIC repair is coming in at just over $800,000. And alternative 3, the selective repair, is listed there at $624,000. Again, this is just our engineer's preliminary estimate of probable construction costs. It would be dependent on actual bids received at the time of bidding. So it's worth me highlighting as largely as I can that alternative 2 cost does not include any of those mitigation costs. We would still have to investigate those costs and include them as part of alternative 2 if it were chosen. Those costs are likely to be substantial. Funding a repair of this magnitude is typically handled through a water management district. Typically in the past, the board has elected to do a 60-40 split of water management district funds through landowner taxing within the watershed and partial funding from the district-wide ad valorem funds. So this would be just a special taxing area, similar to assessments for street repairs, so it would show up on your tax roll. The WMD, the Water Management District, does include all parcels within the drainage area of the ditch, not just on branch 5 and 6, but all branches within the watershed of ACD 5362, which is the same process that has been used on past repairs. All landowners pay, that's residential, commercial, cities, and counties. And again, the entire watershed shares the cost for repair on all branches. This is identical to the process that was used for previous repairs on other branches as well as the main trunk. Looking at this a little bit further on how we break down these costs, this is another parcel map of the watershed of the entire ACD 5362. So lots of colors on the map that show different land uses. Anything from airports and public parks and recreational areas and residential and commercial, industrial. So all those colors mean something different. The costs are shared across the entire watershed. We do look at the land use for the parcel type, and we make a consideration for the soil types underneath each of those parcels and the assumed impervious area associated with that parcel type. And we've got a magical formula that comes up with the shared portion of the cost for that particular parcel. Based on those conditions, it's relating the relative burden that that particular parcel is placing on the ditch, the need to drain water from it. So again, this is identical to the process from previous repairs. All landowners share that cost. I will note that we have updated this map. After our final WMD report came out, it was noted that there was one future zoning change that needed to be made. So we have made that change that included from agricultural to commercial. And we've updated our cost, and those updated costs are included in our final. So last slide here, this would be a potential schedule should this repair get ordered today. This would be a potential schedule that we could follow. So starting at the top of the boxes there, today we are at the public hearing. That's this meeting right now. We're waiting the board consideration for a resolution in order to establish a repair and the WMD charge. If that goes through, we would certify the Water Management District charges to the county this fall. That would show up on next year's taxes. We would enter into final plan development this fall and hope to be ready for bidding this winter. Maybe into early 26 there. We would begin meeting with landowners within the construction zone in the spring of 26, and then potentially starting construction late spring 26. So that's highly dependent on a lot of things falling into place nicely. So that's an optimistic schedule. I will say that the construction timing is also partially dependent on those avoidance measures for threatened and endangered species. For example, you could only do tree removals at a certain time of the year to avoid roosting habitat. You can only do ditch excavation to avoid wetland habitat for turtles, that sort of thing. So you have to time out that construction. So that's all I have today for the presentation. Any questions from the board?
Yes, Adam, can you please pull up what is figure 4 of your report, page 64 of the packet?
Let's see. I did not have that pulled up right away, but give me a moment. I should be able to find it.
That's the proposed alternative 3. That's what it looks like. So first of all, Mr. Neese, am I correct that that's what Houston Engineering and staff is recommending we adopt?
That is correct. Those represent the alternative 3
Okay, can you get that up on the screen,
partial
please?
repair. Yep. Let's see.
Adam, I could pull it up here.
Yeah, I think this is the map here.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so explain to me the green versus the yellow.
Sure. So the green portions are those areas that would not be excavated to the full ASIC depth. So they would either get a partial excavation.
Mr. Adonis, would you care to correct that statement for me?
One thing I'll note besides, Adam is correct that some of these areas will be excavated to a partial depth. Other parts of the green areas have already been cleaned out. So for instance, branch 6, the main part of branch 6 going into branch 6 lateral 1, that already is cleaned out and has been cleaned out to the as constructed grade. So there is no repair needed on that one.
Mr. Adonis, how about 109th Avenue Northeast segment?
109th Avenue also has been cleaned out. That was actually it's been maintained a couple times in the last 15 years or so.
In fact, it's below the ASIC, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not proposing to repair that which has already been repaired, is what I take away from this alternative 3.
Sure.
How about lateral 1? Why are we not doing lateral 1? Mr. Adonis?
Lateral 1 of branch 5.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the area that we are recommending that be abandoned, that no longer provides a functional purpose. That branch actually exists within a DNR public water. Any of the lands that drain into that are subject to that public water. It does not go all the way through it, and cleaning that out would not have any sort of benefit to any of the lands adjacent to the ditch.
Thank you, Mr. Neese.
You're welcome.
Those are my questions. Anyone else have questions?
Mr. President,
John.
thank you. So there's a couple of different regulation agencies that are important here. One of them is the federal government and the other is the state. And so we're going to be fulfilling both rules, of course. Yeah. But would you differentiate in what the cost would be between if we only had to do the federal rule versus the state's requirements for replacement of wetlands? For example, plants, for example, that may be a federal rule versus and a state rule also, and what those costs differentiates, how that adds up to the cost, and limitations that we can do is to clean out to the ASICs, the original profile.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have off the top of my head that differentiation of those costs. Maybe others.
Mix over here.
Mr. Administrator.
President Bradley, Board of Managers, as Adam had made note, he doesn't have the actual costs for the mitigation that may be required. But I think your point in asking the question may be the distinction of what's being regulated. So I heard Adam share that avoidance of the roosting habitat of the bats is possible with correct timing, which means providing the contractor can meet those timelines, there shouldn't be an additional cost there. The wetland impacts that occur, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Otterness. I think he'll be able to answer that.
Sure. So Adam presented the two costs there for alternative 2 and alternative 3 that were construction costs, and that would be essentially the cost that would be incurred without considering any sort of regulation or rules. So there's about a $200,000 difference between the two alternatives. Again, Adam noted that there are mitigation costs. Most of those mitigation costs are related to state rules, whether it be Public Waters Law or the Wetland Conservation Act, which I think Manager Waller is referring to with the federal law, the Clean Water Act, which in the case of the Clean Water Act, maintenance of a drainage system is exempt. And so under the federal law, there is no additional requirement under the Clean Water Act other than, as Nick and Adam have noted, there are some limitations to and challenges to the construction related to, federally listed species, particularly the northern long-eared bat. So, but I think a more simplistic answer to that question would be there's about a $200,000 cost between the two, only looking at application of federal laws.
And Mr. Otterness, if we look at figure 5, which is on page 65 of our packet, the branch 5, lateral 1, I can see some, looks like open waters there and the wetland that we would be avoiding. Is that the case?
Correct. That branch 5 lateral 1, that is a public water that is located along there, and actually the branch goes through.
Anyone else have questions?
So, Mr. President, yes. So my point I was trying to get to, Adam, is that the added costs of which the state regulations are in addition to the federal cost. And while Engineer Otterness has pointed out maybe it's $200,000, it's two different approaches.
That's a 1/3 increase in cost.
Approximately. Yeah, and also, under the federal law, you could also have full clean-out, correct? So you wouldn't have partial clean-outs as you do here and there because it's exempt. And so I think it's important that the public realize that the costs to have a full clean-out cost are probably a little bit more than $200,000 when we get done figuring it up, or mitigation, and what the regulatory requirements of the state in Minnesota are. I guess in the future I'd like to see that as a column. I mean, it's a curious number to look at so people understand where their cost comes, because you take the $600,000 and then we'll just say for discussion purposes, you take out the contingency fund and you do it on the 40-60 split where the public gets taxed for 40 of it. The special taxing district gets 60% of it, and the public in general, the watershed pays and their ad valorem 40%. So that makes a significant difference in what happens to them. And that's what I point out. Is that really value for what you're paying for? That's for them to decide.
President Bradley?
Yes.
If I might ask from the conversation, Adam, I'm curious, I think earlier you made a distinction between those different scenarios and the resultant water levels. Mm-hmm. Was it 0.29 and 0.31? Would that be in reference to the two the regulations that we're speaking to, or no?
That's correct, Nick. So we do have modeling of the system, and we compare, again, on average, across those two branches and laterals, what the reduction in water surface elevation for, in this case, the 10-year event would be, and they were similar. The ASIC alternative got slightly more reduction, which is intuitive. But the partial alternative also got good reduction, and it's a balance of coming up with that function for the cost, and is the additional cost to get the full ASIC repair worth the money to do so, and is there, other things considered, flood risk and the like too, is it benefiting those landowners?
So, Mr. President, Adam, what's important, when we talk about full ASIC repair, we're not really talking about eliminating the weir structure or lowering the culvert under Lexington Avenue 1.5 feet. That would be because those have to be maintained because of the state regulatory actions, probably more so than the federal, because they'd be exempt. And so that's a significant, because of the state regulations, a significant loss of drainage by the state regulatory Wetland Act and such. And I think that's an important point to point out, is that the impact of those that come about. So,
Mr. President, I just wanted a note on that regarding the weir down at Lexington and the elevation that we have on there. We have determined an ASIC elevation which matches what the weir elevation is there. So
yes.
if we were to change that, it's statute 103E that we would have to address, not really a wetland statute in order to do that.
Well, Mr. President, though, the reason for the weir structure in there is to protect those wetlands. That was the idea of it. And also that the Lexington culvert happens to be already constructed higher. So my point is, in a perfect world, this isn't the perfect world, right? That the wetland protections have caused the loss of the ASIC, which the current ASIC is based on the weir structure, but without the weir structure, that ASIC would create greater drainage, and it would also, but we can't do that at this time mostly because of the state rules. And Lexington happens to be high, so you lose 1.5 feet of potential drainage in there. And that was really the basis for a lot of complaints over the years, and I just wanted to make sure the public understood that.
Are there further questions from the board? Now I'd like to open up the meeting for public comments. We have 2 members of the public present. Would either of you like to step forward and make a comment?
And 4 online.
I'm on lateral 1. So.
Okay. Miss? Anybody online?
We have 4 people online, but our policy no longer allows people online to publicly comment because of the problems we've had with bad actors.
Yes, we had some.
So it's my understanding, Mr. Administrator, that notice went out to people who are online that they can listen, but unfortunately cannot participate at this time unless they're in present.
Thank you.
President Bradley, Board of Managers, that is correct. The notice for the meeting notes out that online is for monitoring of the meeting, and if they'd like to address the board, they should come to the meeting itself.
Okay. But they can provide
Yes.
My written comment.
So, certainly, step forward, please.
Thank you.
Identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Pat Gray. I live at 11060 Okinawa Street in Blaine. And I back up to lateral 1, so obviously I had some questions if that was going to be done, but I don't have any questions. But I do have a question that there is an infiltration basin behind 3 lots. It starts at mine. Does that have anything to do with, is that part of the watershed? Does anyone know that? And
Mr. Adams.
So the infiltration basins you're talking about, if they're backing up on your property, they would be within the watershed district, but they aren't related to the public drainage system where we're managing now. They would have been something that would have been constructed as part of one of the developments, and it's something that Rice Creek would permit as the development occurs.
So do you permit over to the developer or to the city? We're having a little argument if I'm on the HOA board and we're potentially
Mr.
thinking
Cole,
about
that might be
the
a question
HOA,
for you
and
to answer.
that question is who owns that infiltration basin they're saying the HOA is responsible for it versus the watershed or the city or. Mr. Cole?
My HOA says the same thing that we're responsible for.
Right.
And Mr. President, I would defer to those documents, both the plating documents, the association documents, and then any specific zoning approvals that were given as part of that development. My assumption would be that as part of those development approvals, the developer was required to create those stormwater facilities, and that those stormwater facilities were put under the obligation of the association to take care of. There may be different documentation that say something different. Sometimes those facilities are dedicated to the municipality for those purposes. But again, I think you have to go back to those source documents and figure that out.
Okay.
We might have something in our permitting file also, Mr. Chair, that addresses that.
That's me.
Patrick?
Yeah, so, no, I agree with Cole. So typical standard is that the maintenance obligation for those basins is recorded on the property title. But correct, it's possible it's a situation where the city has decided to take those over. So it would come down to the document, which I can certainly look up and share with you if you'd like.
Great.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
It was Mr. Gray, correct?
Yes.
So in addition to this fun time that we have here, I'm also your elected official in the city of Blaine.
Okay.
And I was going to mention, one thing that would maybe helpful in the future when we are identifying projects like this is if the GIS maps were updated, because the development that this gentleman lives in has been around for a while, and it's actually not on here.
Right.
So that can be
Right.
confusing sometimes when people are receiving, notification, but then the attachments don't reflect the homes they live in. But specific to your pond, I'm going to leave this for you. Reach out to me if we need to set up some time for you to sit down with our engineering team, and that also encompasses our stormwater management team. Let's do that and try to sort through responsibility, because to the attorney's point, and actually Patrick's as well, they're not always the same. It's not always it's this way 100% of the time. So if we need to get into the nuts and bolts of that, we can certainly invest the time to do that for you.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. So at this time, if no one else wishes to speak, and there's apparently not, then we will close the public hearing, at which time we now go into our discussions of what we want to do. We were provided a yes.
I move to close the public hearing.
Oh, thank you, John.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So, for the first time in my recollection, we were given a document that says the Board Deliberation Guide for Repair of Branches 5 and 6, and it has required findings. John, rather than going through each of those 5 individually, if we have a motion to approve the recommended decision, that automatically answers each of those questions, does it not?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. I guess if you did that, I would request that the board maybe continue for a final decision so you can consider more detailed findings and an order in this. I also think it might be beneficial if I could indulge the board to talk about how it wants to handle the branch 5 lateral 1 in the order. What I hear the engineer saying is that branch 5 lateral 1 is heavily encumbered by regulatory restrictions, and that it is also likely not in a fair state of repair, in which case I think the board needs to make a decision and probably articulate in this order the reason why it's not going to repair this as part of this repair, and then also to, if it concurs with the engineer's recommendation, to make a finding that that portion of the system is so deteriorated and the regulatory restrictions are such that the restoration of its function is impractical.
Okay, hold on.
There's a lot there, but I would put that in final findings for you.
So thank you, Mr. Cole. So as I understand it, it would be appropriate, however, for us to decide which of the alternatives we're in favor of, and then remand it back to staff to prepare a final report to implement that alternative. Is that correct? RC?
So are you saying branch 5 lateral 1 or branch 6 lateral 1?
Branch 5 lateral 1, if I'm understanding the engineer correctly, the one in the north side that runs north of 109th.
So we would, the proposal is to abandon that?
Well, we,
Alternative 3.
we can't abandon it without a separate proceeding, but we can make a finding in this proceeding that its restoration is impractical, and I think that functionally, based on court precedent, would say that we're exercising our discretion consistent with the law and choosing not to repair that, and then making a further finding that its restoration is impractical. That basically justifies future, your future, I don't want to say ignoring of that branch, but I guess it'll inform future decisions as to what to do with that branch.
All right.
Or that lateral to branch 5, excuse me.
So, I am in discussion, support the alternative 3. The portions that are shown on that chart that I had Mr. Otten to show us indicates, now I've lost it there. There, I got it. So alternative 3, which was figure 4, 109th Street is actually below ASIC level, so that obviously we've got to still repair it in the sense that there are any trees or obstructions and deal with that. And same with branch 6 and branch 6 lateral 1. Those are also already been maintained. Therefore, again, our only obligation would be at this time to go through and make sure there's nothing obstructing it in the way. With regard to branch 1, lateral 1, I support not trying to repair that and apparently appropriately moving forward with consideration of abandonment in a separate proceeding. So I am in favor of alternative 3, shown in figure 4. Are there comments on my comments?
Well, I would agree. That'd be my comments.
No, I know it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm reviewing multiple of this
I know.
enormous encyclopedic packet
Yeah.
that we have today.
Yes.
And what we're talking about now is what order we would do this.
So
Or how,
what we need to do is give, apparently, if you're in favor of alternative 3, as I am, apparently the draft order provided to us does not sufficiently address the issues that need to be addressed according to our lawyer.
okay.
Mr. Cole, did I state that correctly?
I think there's, based on the evidence presented today, there's some additional content that should be added.
Okay.
And if the board is looking for a motion that would accomplish that, we could take the scenario B motion that's in your deliberation guide, insert after engineer's recommendation in parentheses if you want, alternative 2, I think it is, Adam, correct, is the limited scope, alternative 3, limited scope repair. And then we could pick a date at which time the board would want to consider those findings in order. And we suggest likely your first meeting either in September the 10th or as an alternative the 24th.
So, Mr. Cole, you referenced the board deliberation guide. I don't see a scenario B listed.
Page 3,
Yes.
in the middle,
In the middle.
bolded.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Or replace column.
So,
So, Mr. President,
Mr. Waller,
I will move that we direct the staff to prepare findings in an order consistent with the proceedings, including responses to all comments received by the public process, that the findings in order be written, to order the repair of branches 5 and 6 of Anoka County 5362, consistent with the engineer's recommendations and allocated costs of repair, including imposition of water management district charges as recommended, and that we recess this hearing to the board's regular meeting of
September 10th. would be
10th. You want to do it that early, or do you want the second meeting?
10th is fine.
10th is fine to meet our
September
timeframes.
10th, 2025, 9 a.m. in the Mounds View City Hall at 2401 County Road 10, Mounds View, Minnesota, or by adjournment to appropriate time on the board's agenda, at which the meeting we would consider the findings and facts. And to be clear about this motion, I'm talking about engineer's recommendation allocated costs of number 3. Was it on page? Yeah, I took my pen out. There it is. Page 82 of our packet, Appendix B. This is preliminary opinion of probable construction costs of alternative number 3. Is that adequate for a motion, Mr. Attorney?
Wonderful motion, Manager Waller.
Wonderful. I'll mark that down then.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion?
President Bradley?
Yes.
I think for the record, it might be good, sorry, a little bit of a tangent. If Inspector Tom Schmidt might share if we received any written comments that are available.
Super. Mr. Schmidt, did we receive any written comments?
Mr. President, Board of Managers, I've not received any written comments.
There you go.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up
Check.
question? Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
please.
So, I mean, I know that there is a long-standing history specifically with this Metro Gun Club site, and I know regardless of alternative, right, this runs through some of that property that is owned by that individual. Has there been communication, clear communication with that individual?
They were present in our prior meeting.
Okay, I just want to
That's-
ensure that
they-
there
they were
is super
present
clear
at that
communication
part.
and
Yeah.
we're not doing something that impacts negatively what already exists through this long-standing
Me too.
back and forth. So I just
Chris,
want
Mr.
to note
Adonis,
that.
You want to respond to that, Mr. Adonis?
Yeah, Mr. President, just want to note too that where we're proposing to repair is alongside that property. It's basically more or less along the property
Yeah, it's
line.
the EDA's most of it,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so again, there's been the opportunity for a hearing, but the repair will not materially affect the property.
Okay, I just
No.
want to make sure that there's no,
Nothing.
opportunity for them to be upset with us additionally, upset with
Got it.
us, that's all.
All
Just
right.
a good neighbor mindset on that communication.
Any further questions?
Mr. President, I want to emphasize here that in the description of the probable construction costs, again, to remind you that the state mandated requirements for wetland protections and public waters is not itemized here. And so there may be additions to that.
Mr. Adonis, are there under alternative 3, are there wetland replacement credit requirements?
Mr. President, no, we are,
We're avoiding those.
we do not anticipate any costs related to the Wetland Conservation Act for that one.
Just remember, he said, do not anticipate.
It's best we can do. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That was a lot of work. Appreciate it.
Good, yes. I'm gonna step for just a second and get this card to the strong.
Certainly.
Going back to the agenda.
You bet. So, Mr. Administrator, are we on to the accepting the engineer's report for Anoka County Ditch 72 partial abandonment?
President Bradley, Board of Managers, that is correct. You're starting your items requiring board action. Today we have Tom Schmidt to cover that issue.
Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board of Managers, if you remember, you were petitioned for a modification of Anoka County Ditch 72 in Lino Lakes in association with the Watermark development expansion. That, in the interim, you accepted that petition and directed the engineer to create a report, but between the delivery of the report and accepting the report, the petitioners submitted a modification to that petition. So instead of just abandonment, they want to change it to instead of reroute, they want to do a full abandonment of the branches noted. So the engineer has modified the report and will present it today.
Mr. President, members of the board. So again, we're talking about a petition for abandonment on Anoka County Ditch 72. On the screen here, I have shown the general area. This is located to the west of 35E, east of Peltier Lake, and then generally north of Main Street going through Centerville. But these properties in this area that we're talking about here is actually located within the city of Lino Lakes. So the basis for the review that we did is per statute 103E.806, partial abandonment of a drainage system. And the purpose here, and I'll talk a little bit more of why it's being done in the next slide, but it's the abandonment of parts of that drainage system for the purposes of land development. And so under the statute, it indicates that the board shall set a time and location for a hearing and provide notice per statute, and then make a findings on an order for the abandonment if it meets two parts here. One part being that the system does not serve a substantial useful purpose to any property remaining in the system, and the second part being that it does not provide a substantial public benefit and utility. So the two sites that we're talking about here are actually two different land developments. One of them is referred to as Peltier Ponds. That's the blue rectangle shown on the map. It's kind of wedged in there between the county road. There's a county road 54, Tom?
52.
And then Peltier, and Peltier Lake there. And then on the other side of the county road is Erickson subdivision. That subdivision is essentially completely surrounded by the prior watermark phases there that you can see on the aerial photo. And both these areas have portions of Anoka County Ditch 72 within those properties. This map here is from the petitioner, and it shows the specific portions that are proposed to be abandoned. Those portions are shown with the red squiggly line on the map. Those are the remaining parts of Anoka County Ditch 72 on those properties. Actually, about, I think it was maybe 12 or 13 years ago, the district actually abandoned a number of different laterals in conjunction with a proceeding to reestablish the public drainage system record. And a number of those laterals were essentially small tile lines located on these properties that were only solely within those properties. So the portions of the drainage system that are proposed to be abandoned are branch 1. Or I should say portions of branch 1. That's the one that takes a left-hand turn through that Peltier Ponds property. And then all of branch 1, lateral 11, that's the one that kind of runs to the south and makes a jog over to the east across the county road. And then also all of branch 1, lateral 8, which is the other squiggly line that's running off to the southwest and dead ending in parts of this proposed development. I'll note the scope of the petition, as Tom indicated, was amended from the previously accepted petition. The prior petition actually did not include any portions of the drainage system that were to the east of the county road onto that Erickson subdivision property. It also included a realignment so that it could serve that Erickson subdivision property over to the east. And the reason why the scope has been amended now is that Erickson subdivision, they have also recognized that as part of their property that they would need to be abandoning portions of the drainage system on their property. So for all parties involved, it made sense to tack on the abandonment on their portion of the property in conjunction with this abandonment to save all those involved additional expense. So the properties that are involved with this include properties owned by U.S. Home Inc., Hal Libel, Watermark HOA, Hampton Properties 8 LLC, and then all four of those are petitioners onto this petition, on this amended petition. And then the only one that hasn't been involved with the amended petition that would be involved with this is Anoka County as the owner of the right-of-way along the county road going through here. The purpose of the abandonment is to facilitate those two land developments, Peltier Ponds and Erickson subdivision. As part of those two developments, they will create a network of stormwater management features that will drain water from those properties. And important to note that also with those developments, there'll be a differing land use than currently is there right now. Right now, at the Erickson subdivision, it's essentially a residential property. On the Peltier Ponds development area, it's agricultural land. And the drainage system originally, of course, was constructed for the purposes of draining the land that was used as agricultural land and providing both surface and subsurface drainage for those. Now, with these different developments, the focus will be less on providing that drainage for the lower rainfall events and more for providing a outlet for a 10-year, 100-year event consistent with how we manage stormwater in subdivisions. Very important to note that neither of these developments can occur without abandoning portions of the drainage system on site. As the site will be graded, all of the drainage system would be obliterated via the construction of those two developments.
So, Mr. Ardennes, how will the water get off this land once those are abandoned?
Exact question.
So the water will get off the land through ponding that will be occurring from the development. It will be occurring through storm sewer that will be included in the development. There will be also overland swales, ditches, and that sort of thing. And so the petitioners are still working through their development plans on these. We have seen initial submittals from them, but neither one of them have gone completely through the permitting process. So some of the details of how they'll get the water off will change as we go here. On that Peltier Pond subdivision, for instance, so most of their land now will be draining to the southwest over toward the large pipe conveyance system that was constructed by the city a few years ago in conjunction with the Watermark property developments. The Erickson subdivision property, they will drain part of their property to the east into Watermark, part of their property to the south into Watermark, and then part of it will be going underneath the culvert. There's an existing culvert under County Road, the County Road 54 there that will be going west, again, onto the Peltier Ponds property. So they're going to be using multiple avenues to get the drainage off those two properties.
So who will own the stormwater systems that they need to convey that water once it leaves their property?
Any of these storm sewer conveyance systems that will be within the public roadways will be managed by the city of Lino Lakes. There is some drainage conveyance that is located along the county road that will be managed by Anoka County. And then there's going to be some private drainage pathways that will be located on varying properties through there. Again, some of the details may not have been worked out yet to date, again, because we're still going through the permitting process. Who will be managing, for instance, the stormwater ponds on site, that probably remains to be seen, maybe to be worked out between the city and the developer.
So I've got kind of a chicken and egg question here. I mean, is it appropriate for us to approve abandonment before we've approved the permits?
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, you're not approving the abandonment today. You're only receiving the engineer's report. We still have to set this on for public hearing. We would make any authorization to abandon this. We can tie that back and make it contingent on the developer's submission of satisfactory stormwater management plans that address these issues that are being raised by the board.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Wynant.
So all the water goes into ACD 72, no matter what's going on, no matter how it's being redirected. Is that correct?
Manager Wyatt, I would say for the most part, most of the water in this area goes into ACD 72 that is covered, I guess, or by the drainage dish. There are portions of the properties, both Peltier Ponds and Erickson subdivision, that don't currently go to 72. They actually go into the Watermark subdivision or go directly into Peltier Lake. So there are a combination of drainage pathways that drain these properties.
And we, in the past, for the Watermark project, abandoned some laterals. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've abandoned portions of both ACD 55 and ACD 72 as part of the Watermark development.
So are we or is the proposal to redirect water in from one sub-watershed that would have drained into 72 into another drainage ditch?
All of the area drains eventually into Peltier Lake. As part of the subdivision for Peltier Ponds, there probably will be some land area that will be draining away from 72 that currently is draining towards 72, and that water would have a more direct path down to Peltier Lake.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Based on, I want to ensure I'm reading this right. I'm sure Attorney Cole will correct me if I am incorrect, but it looks like this is a multi-step type of thing. So I would at least like to move to accept the engineer's report.
Yep.
So that we can subsequently move into a public hearing. What do you need, Chris? Sorry.
Did
I interrupt you?
No, I'm sorry, but I need it. I have
You
more
have
of
to
my
finish.
presentation.
Oh,
Yes,
my
yes.
word. Well, we're just so excited for that, Chris.
Mr. President, may I ask the engineer a question here?
Yeah.
So I know you have more presentation, but these laterals that you're talking about abandoning, 72 will still be in, the main branch will still exist in the drainage from across the freeway on the east side for both the city of Anoka and Hugo will still be in effect, correct? This is not going to impact that northern part.
That is correct. There are portions of the drainage system that will continue to exist there, and it's only a portion of the drainage system that's being abandoned. Yeah.
So those agricultural properties that north of this development will still have their drainage through Eagle Brook's opens channel to the lake.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, here we go.
So,
Yeah.
You read it?
Manager Robertson, I think you're back.
Okay, so now do you need me to No, because he has to finish his report.
gotta finish his
Right. I
report.
don't get to do anything.
They ought
You have to wait.
But listen.
There you go.
As we've been just discussing, the stormwater management will be via the new infrastructure, and the remainder of 72, as Manager Waller pointed out, will still function, current to its, or similar to its current condition. Permitting is involving both not only Rice Creek rules, but other local, state, and federal approvals. We don't get involved with those approvals. But regarding the Rice Creek rules, they are currently under review. And as we've talked about, if they are approved ahead of the partial abandonment order, permit approval would be contingent upon ordering of the partial abandonment. So some of our conclusions, recommendations, we have found that the proposed portion of the system to be abandoned will not serve a functional purpose or public benefit, so it meets that criteria of the statute. So we do recommend that the board move forward to set a date for a public hearing, and that the district prepare a findings in order to partially abandon 72 with a couple of conditions. First of which is that we do recommend that that a condition be that the petitioners notify district staff prior to demolition of the tile. This is something that we do with any of our abandonment proceedings. And one more specific to this is that we recommend that the plans shall include the capping of branch 1 lateral 11 where it goes underneath County Road 54 right of way. And we're doing this because there's a portion that exists to the east that will still be physically in the ground east of County Road 54. That is in that HOA area. And we have in other tile systems found that if you leave a tile in place there, and if it's a large enough size, sometimes that tile can degrade over time. You get sand or something else that moves in there, and if you don't have the tile end capped, it can create a conveyance that could go through there that could allow water to go through, and you get a blowout occurring. So that's a kind of preventative measure to avoid the potential for one of those blowouts. And then again, as Attorney Cole pointed out, if that petition, or I should say, if the order comes in ahead of the permit being issued, then we recommend that the findings or the abandonment would be contingent upon completion of that permit process. That's all I have now.
Seems to me we ought to add that regardless. Make our acceptance of the findings and action pursuant to that contingent upon us approving the permits. So we know that somebody's going to be responsible for that water. Okay, so now are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Cole, would you prefer me to make 3 individual motions, or can I just make one motion encompassing the items addressed in our narrative here?
You can do the items addressed in the narrative, your second suggestion, or you can just move to adopt the resolution as provided in the packet.
Well, let's go ahead and do that, Mr. Chair. So I would revise my initial attempt to make a motion to just recommend we move forward with the recommendations provided to us today in the packet, including the 3 items listed.
Order, really.
You want separate ones?
Yeah, just the order, the ABC.
All right, you want 3 separate ones, so let's take a
No,
whack at
one
it.
single, just to add.
You want me to include all the
Include
language?
the ABC.
Okay.
short.
Mr. Chair, including items ABC, including acceptance of the engineer's report, setting the date for the public hearing, and directing staff to prepare and provide notice of the public hearing.
Mr. President, I will second Resolution 2025-06, Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers Drainage Authority for Anoka County Ditch 72 findings and order accepting engineer's report review and directing the further proceedings.
Is there any further discussion? And I assume that you accept his amendment to your order, to your motion?
I would be most happy to do that.
There you go.
Well, it wasn't really an amendment, it was
No.
just
Well, it's
clarity.
further expanded it.
Just wanted to make sure we knew what we were
Yeah, the
talking
parts in
about.
it. I appreciate that very much. All in favor, say
We
aye.
need a
I
roll
think
call,
that's a roll
sir.
call.
Oh, we need a roll, yes, we do. Bradley, yes. See, I already got that. Robertson,
Aye.
Wagman absent. Waller,
Yes.
Weinert.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We will look forward to seeing a good proposed order that protects upstream and downstream.
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, next on your agenda is the Board of Water and Soil Resource, Water Quality and Grants Acceptance. This is Hardwood Creek Judicial Ditch 2 Storage Facility Study. David is here to speak to the matter.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board of Managers. Back in 2022, the district was awarded a planning grant for stormwater, wastewater, and community resiliency by MPCA. And that grant was to augment the existing district-wide hydrologic and hydraulic model to simulate larger rainfall depths, identify vulnerable locations by mapping the future conditions, and identify potential capital improvement storage projects. This technical work was completed by Houston, and Rice Creek Watershed District also facilitated workshops through the assistance of Freshwater Society during the project that invited local community leaders to engage in the communities in climate adaptation and resiliency planning. As part of this study, potential storage project sites were screened, prioritizing wetland areas on public parcels that could be potentially enhanced and have a low crop productivity rating, were close in proximity to other known flooding locations and could provide valuable storage below critical elevations of infrastructure. This work all resulted in 7 potential primary storage projects, and conceptual designs were developed for these sites. Evaluation of these sites showed that a site in Hardwood Creek in the JD2 watershed was one of the top 3 sites that provided the greatest opportunity for reducing the negative impacts of climate change on flood risk. In February 2025, Bowser announced that it would be accepting applications for water storage grants to help make landscape more resilient to severe weather events. $3 million was made available in grant funding this year. Up to $500,000 of that was made available to pay for modeling and conceptual design of storage practices, while the remaining $2.5 million was available for final design and construction of storage practices. This round of grants was funded through a one-time appropriation to Bowser from the legislation in 2023, specifically for water quality and storage projects. Rice Creek submitted an application and was awarded $50,000 to further develop the conceptual design for the site in Hardwood Creek JD2 watershed. This grant requires a 10% match, which is $5,000, and that was included in the 2025 approved budget. The grant has a deadline of December 31st of 2027, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I will make a mention that the date on the memo was earlier in July. It took a while for us to get the grant agreement actually in hand, and so it got postponed several meetings. And so in the proposed motion, I would recommend removing the submit work plan. The work plan was due July 25th, and that's already been submitted and approved. And so now we just need to authorize the administrator to execute the grant agreement.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd move to authorize staff to submit a work plan for,
Oh, you said
not
you already-
granted, sorry.
You already-
Authorize the administrator
To accept.
Yeah.
I think you just have to accept it.
To accept a work plan.
No, accept the Bowser, let me try and take a shot.
Yeah.
I move to authorize staff to accept the Bowser fiscal year 26 water quality and storage grant of $50,000 and the administrator to execute the grant agreement. That work?
That'll work.
Thank you.
You got a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. President, so I assume that we're going to build this up in some muck soils up there on the bend in JD2 is what I've been informed. Is that the site that's been chosen? Is this public land or private?
In that climate resiliency study, the area was around the area of Hardwood Creek WMA.
And so do you plan to do this on the WMA or on private property?
Chris is raising his hand, if I could.
Yeah, Mr. President, Manager Waller, we are actually going to be looking at multiple sites in this general area that include both the DNR property and some of the private land ownership areas that are to the east of the east and south of WMA. We have not looked at exactly what types of soils are all in these various areas. I'm assuming that there's going to be some areas that are muck soils, as you indicated, and some areas will be more upland type soils that we'll be looking at utilizing. But we're going to be looking at multiple properties and locations within this general area.
And so this is in the city of Forest Lake. Have you talked to them about it?
I've not talked to Forest Lake. I have met the representatives from DNR out there, and they were generally supportive of the idea. I'd requested a letter of support to submit with the application, and they said they didn't really have a process for that and couldn't independently outside of the commissioner submit a letter of recommendation like that, but they were generally supportive of the idea.
And if this is built in muck soils, which most of that is up there, is this going to be a dredging deal where you make a depression in the soil and you actually hold some water in some kind of a container?
No, a earthen dam was proposed.
Earthen dam, so, okay. So you're going to pile up water in the organic soils.
Again, we haven't gone to the level of detail yet. That's part of what the study would be, is to look at that kind of details of what soils are available out there. There probably will be some combination of excavation along with the construction of embankment on there. But you know, right now, all we have is a more or less a vague concept of what storage could look like here, and the purpose of this effort is to ferret that out into something that's more actionable.
So, Mr. President, you know, we've had a great deal of water storage done over the last 30 years in that area of JD2, beginning with the 3 feet of addition to the Peltier Dam, and of course the 4 feet of weir structure on Rice and Lake, which backs up into Egg Lake. And at the same time, we've had the St. Paul Water Authority come to the conclusion, as I understood at the meeting I was at, that Centerville Lake had too much phosphorus in it. It's interesting that for 100 years, Centerville Lake never had a phosphorus problem with the Water Authority. And then after they put the 3 feet of dam on there and backed the water up into muck soils, all the way to Columbus up there, and the same in Hugo, and the DNR backed it up in there. WMA, we've had almost an increase in phosphorus, and so much so that we spent a good deal of money, $1 million here, to help clean up that. So these, when you put too much water in these muck soils, it causes a phosphorus pump really to come about, and that's a great food source for our favorite native species, blue-green algae. And I know that it's a significant amount because when we did the study for Bald Eagle Lake, for example, 1/3 of the phosphorus came from the swamp that's owned by the Isaac Walton, or what we call Ramsey Washington Ditch 1. So I really wonder if there's been the Water Authority in trying to put more water in available because of the drought in '88 with the 3 feet of the dam on Peltier is really with good intentions, mind you, understand, has caused us to have a phosphorus issue, and the same's true, I think, with the WMA and Hugo. And so this becomes kind of a circle. You back up the water in the swamps, you pump the more phosphorus dissolved and particles come down, and then we have to spend more money to put an alum treatment in order to take the phosphorus away for the food source for the algae. I don't think there's been a lot of critical thinking thought about how this process really works. At least that's my observation. So this $50,000 grant, I'm just wondering, are there other places you can use it, since you had 3 candidates that might be more appropriate than and provide more water quality than what this is going to, in my opinion, is going to not improve it.
I can at least speak to the last portion of that. The other two in the top three projects were Jones Lake, which we approved at the last meeting, and the other one was South Hanson Park, which the city of New Brighton is not looking to pursue at this time. So out of those top three, two of them are being completed with this one.
Marcy?
So to that point, as David had said, this was part of a planning process that began, as I'm looking at this, in 2023. Kendra led that effort. I attended one of those workshops where we had people from all over the watershed, very much engaged in the whole process of identifying potential sites for climate resiliency. That, if I recall right, that opportunity was paid for by an MPCA grant,
Correct.
State grant. So now this competitive grant is $50,000 for our $5,000 match. David, I appreciate the fact that you included in here the locate where that money came from, which was out of the general fund.
I was hoping we would.
Yes, so noted, yes. So I think this is an excellent follow-on. We engaged the public, we did planning, we applied for a grant, and now we're at the point where we can look more closely at what the options are. So I would call the questions.
So, Mr. President, I just point out engaging the public didn't include the city of Forest Lake or Hugo.
They were present at the planning early on.
I do need to ask if you're calling the question, I need to ask a question, or I'm not
Yeah.
going to vote
Sure.
in favor of it.
Sure.
Just so I can be clear, what we're dialoguing is just a grant in regards to a feasibility study. We're not committing, okay, I'm not asking you, girlfriend.
Yeah.
We're not committing to a long-term project or anything like that. I'm not a muck soil expert. Who knew? I'm gonna make a t-shirt, muck soil expert. But I do think that it is important, and I know you indicated that Forest Lake was engaged, but then you also said that they weren't. So I do think communication is really, really important on that, so I would just highlight that. I understand it's a grant, I understand the match has already been budgeted for, and that this is just one step in a multi-step process to a larger project. I just wanted to verify that.
Mr. President, I point out that earlier this was pulled out of the budget, but when they received the news that the grant was in, they put it back in. So it seems to me it's not a really high priority idea, but, you know, it's because they wouldn't do it. If it was high priority, you'd be spending it in the budget all the way around.
So,
Anyways,
question's been called. All in favor of the motion that I made and was seconded to accept the Bowser money and execute the grant agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed to accepting the money.
Oh, you're lucky I was allowed to ask my question, or we'd be in a real awkward spot.
Wow.
Not really.
So what's next, Mr. Administrator? That's the-
President Bradley, Board of Managers, yes, a task order for the same issue we've just discussed, and David will cover that as well.
Yes, I know you've got a big packet. This is page 258 in your packet. But just a quick follow-up to the grant award, accepting it now. This is a task order for $54,000 to complete the work as we described by the grant. Any questions?
Any further questions?
Is there a motion?
I'm going to do a motion. Let's have questions of our staff. I move to authorize the administrator to execute task order 2025-014 Hardwood Creek /JD2 subwater storage feasibility study for Houston Engineering not to exceed $54,000. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Just a quick comment reminder, again, engage the city of Forest Lake to ensure they know and are in agreement with what is occurring in their area.
Absolutely.
Now, Mr. President, there's really no, like I say, I don't think the critical thinking aspect of this whole idea has been thought through, because it's going to, in my opinion, just create more phosphorus in both dilution and particles and impact Peltier Lake as it flows downstream.
I would note that the purpose of this is to do that critical thinking. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, so are we 2025 Minnesota Watershed resolutions? We're implementing, actually, didn't we do this?
We discussed it. Today is your action to identify your delegates and stuff.
Okay, so.
And the voting. Kendra is here to address it if you have further questions from that workshop.
Welcome, Kendra.
Morning. So I have an item for you today with two proposed motions for choosing your two delegates and an alternative person to vote at the Minnesota Watershed's annual meeting on resolutions and petitions meeting on August 25th.
So yes, Mr. Chair, we did discuss this at the workshop, and I move to designate Manager Bradley and Manager Wynett as the delegates for the 2025 annual meeting on resolutions and petitions with no alternate.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the second motion, I believe, is I move to instruct the delegates to vote in accordance with the stated RCWD positions related to the resolutions on the agenda, which was to, of course, heartily endorse the resolution we put forward.
Yes.
And to show okay with regard to the other two that do not directly affect us, although one of them is to try to improve the process to put timelines on government to act on petitions. So clearly we should be in favor of that. So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Fabulous. Check register.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the check register dated August 13th, 2025 in the amount of $226,516.33 prepared by Redpath and Company.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chris Ananas, do you have anything to add to your engineer update and timeline?
Mr. President, no, I don't have anything specific to add, but you can address any questions.
Any questions to Mr. Ananas? Next item, Mr. Administrator.
Yes, a couple of administrator updates. I'll note that DNR is identified in their August 11th mapping of high flows in the district area. So not surprising, we have water everywhere and a lot of concerned folks. I'll make note for the board that Perry Wegeman did submit a public data act request of the district, and we are processing that request. We have also engaged as staff Renke Noonan on Minnesota paid leave, paid family and medical leave, the new law that the state has adopted. Making note of Lino Lakes and the AUAR area that included the area Mr. Stowe spoke to this morning, that the district was involved in that staff did engage along with the district engineer regarding the capacity of the system. We looked at the development options that were considered there, et cetera, and commented accordingly. Basically that the system provides the capacity that it has, that capacity is not, how do you say, overwhelmed by the proposed development scenarios that they've identified through that process. Noting the muck soils as a phosphorus pump in that discussion today, I'm happy to have Mr. Koshin come and speak to that to some regard, or someone else of expertise. I'll note our internal discussions as staff in regards to muck soils and the phosphorus pump, et cetera, would support the project as the majority of the board did today. And then I'll note certainly that we have our policies that we're considering. You currently have a bylaw that says you won't take action at a workshop, but obviously we've done that. We'll look to get that corrected. Our guidance from our legal counsel is that a meeting of the district is a meeting of the district and you taking action is appropriate. But we're kind of in this gray area, so we've been doing both, and we'll get that straightened out.
Thank you for that, because what we just did in designating the the delegates
Yes.
could have been officially done at a workshop. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for
yeah.
clarifying that.
It's been a bylaw for many, many years, and it's been abused for a long time. So either to change the bylaw or obey the rule, one or the other.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yep.
And I've objected to it many years ago, back in, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, when they did a lot of things at workshops, and no one on this board at this time, but the lawyers and a former board member who was an attorney came up with that. A meeting is a meeting when it was convenient, in my opinion, for them. So I'm glad to see we either do something about changing the bylaws or obeying the rule.
There you go. Manager Waller, you have anything, updates for us?
Mr. President, I attended the CAC meeting, and we received the notice that we had at the workshop, and it was shared about how we're finally going to be able to distribute the money that's been put away for probably, I don't know, 10 years or so for the Clear Lake westward shoreline restoration, because the city of Forest Lake has made a decision with the DNR as to what to do there, and the impact that that's going to have, because that's where the public entrance is for fishing on that lake, and all of that money will, oftentimes our shoreline money, like today we distributed some that goes to private parties, but that'll be definitely all public money on that area. And I went on the tour, I guess, also along with Manager Wynett. She'll have a much better explanation of it than I do, of the from Taylor's Falls down to almost to Stillwater, but not quite, back on the boat. To take a look at the river. It's quite interesting. I've never been on that part of the river before, and I'm a lifetime Washington County resident, so shows you I'm colloquial, and I don't go over on the east side that much. And it was an interesting session in which you went through 6 different stations about this and that, and that's about it, Mr. Chairman. No more, Mr. President. Thank you.
Manager Wynett.
So I'm not going to get the acronym correct, but this is the tour was hosted by joint watersheds that are along the St. Croix. So there were county commissioners and watershed managers and township officers. And yes, as John said, they get all these folks on the boat, and then we actually had breakout sessions where it was everything from signage and how to do signage to remind people that this is protected areas are part of the scenic waterways, to mussels and blue-green algae, as well as a few other things. So I guess I'm the appointee on that multiple watershed collaboration there. So it was very nice, and it's I think the water or the air quality at that day was like 190. So it was very interesting to see the river and the trees through all that smoke. The other thing that I would report is there is a Ramsey County Association of Local Governments, and David and I have been part of the climate action subcommittee. We meet once a month on Thursdays, and this year water resource, water conservation is the theme. So I would imagine the watershed districts within Ramsey County will be very much engaged in this, and this is another opportunity to continue to inform the Ramsey County Commissioners of what we're up to. So,
Mr. Robertson.
Mr. Chair, I'm just happy to be here. Nothing to share today.
And I am happy to have had you here today. So, I have nothing to add, so I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's it.
All right.